Welcome to a special edition of The Mike Stone Show. Today, you'll hear Mike's podcast conversation with Grammy-winning songwriter Randy Goodrum, the remarkable talent behind some of the biggest songs in modern music. Randy shares unforgettable stories from his incredible career as a hit songwriter, acclaimed session musician, and collaborator with many of the world's greatest recording artists. Along the way, you'll also hear many of the timeless hits that made him a music legend. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this special conversation, only on The Mike Stone Show right now.
Yeah, every once in a while, we get the opportunity to sit down with someone whose work has quietly become part of the soundtrack of our lives. Today's guest is one of those remarkable people. Randy Goodrum is one of America's most respected songwriters with an extraordinary career spanning more than 4 decades. He's written timeless hits including You Needed Me, Oh Sherry, Foolish Heart, I'll Be Over You, Bluer Than Blue, and many, many more. These songs recorded by artists like Anne Murray, Steve Perry, Toto, Chicago, Kenny Rogers, and dozens of others. He's also an accomplished pianist and a member of the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, and a gifted storyteller whose songs continue to touch millions of people around the world. Today, we'll go behind the music to hear the stories, the inspiration, and the remarkable journey of one of the finest songwriters of our time. Mr. Randy Goodrum, welcome to the Mike Stone Show.
Pleasure being here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, sir. Well, we get right into it. Of course, you were raised there in Hot Springs, Arkansas. When did you first realize that music wasn't just something you enjoyed, but something you were probably really meant to do?
It's interesting. Growing up, I remember my early childhood. My dad was a doctor, and he would come home every day and give some guitar and play old standards on it. And a lot of songs I thought were old standards were actually some that he had made up himself. I didn't think anything about it, really. I was too young to realize that not everybody's parents came home and played music. But my dad did that, and then my older brother, 5 years older than me, would play blues we had a little Gull Branson spinet piano, and he was a big fan of blues. He would listen to it at night on the radio, and then he would play blues on the piano. And so, I was kind of surrounded by that. And within my house, pretty soon I started trying to plunk around on the piano a little bit, and I started realizing I had sort of an ability to hear something and then figure out how to do it on the piano, even though really, really roughly at first. I mean, I even played mainly on the black keys. There were fewer black keys than white keys. And so I played everything in C sharp or F sharp or whatever. And then when I started looking over my shoulder of my brother, he would be playing in C and F and the white keys. And so I switched over to that and basically just started picking out songs by ear and really loved doing it and spent a lot of time doing that. I would hear something on the radio, an old standard or something, and at least try to peck out like a person who doesn't know how to type, just using their forefingers or whatever. I would peck out the melody on the piano, and then eventually my mom found this piano teacher when I was about 8 years old and started giving me legitimate piano lessons. I don't know. I think music was something that I took for granted because it was so plentiful in my house. And it was something I did for fun. Even when I started taking lessons, it wasn't drudgery because I already loved doing it. So
love for music right away, though, when you was just a youngster. And I guess, growing up there in Hot Springs, that place was sort of a hotbed for all kinds of music. So how did Hot Springs maybe shape you as a young musician growing up there?
You're right. Hot Springs is a resort town, as you know. They have the racetrack here, and you have a lot of people coming in, and nightclubs and dinner theaters and places like that were all, for a town that size, it was pretty amazing how many venues there were. When I started getting further on and deciding that, well, it's a long story to go from your first question to when I started playing in nightclubs and stuff. But I had plenty of opportunity in my teenage years even to kind of learn the trade by playing in nightclubs and social clubs like the Elks Lodge and places like that where you could play a dance, and learn all the old standards. And there were a lot of musicians from all over the world that were living there because they loved the lifestyle. It was easygoing. There was plenty of work for them. And, I was playing with people from New York, Europe, and California, places like that, along with the Southern folks that were plentiful. And there was some pretty amazing, it was a pretty amazing environment when I look back on it.
Right, and all kinds of different music genres. And like you said, musicians coming in. The old Arlington Hotel there in Hot Springs, that was quite a place where a lot of people, I think, stayed and had a great time there with the Springs.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the major hotels. They had a little, there was usually a trio playing there or something. I didn't play there that often, honestly. I mean, there were events that happened there and all, but yeah, that was a pretty major spot for people to come when they came to visit Hot Springs. Still is.
We took you there from being a youngster, and we did move quite fast, but that's okay. We tried to sort of get a grip here about what happened. But in high school, I suppose you went to Hot Springs High School.
That's correct, yes.
And, of course, one of the things that I think a lot of people don't know about was you had a little jazz trio there, and I think you had a saxophone player that became quite famous later on. Can you tell us about your trio there?
Okay, so I'm entering the 10th grade, which was the high school, 10, 11, 12 there, and I get a phone call he says, I'm putting together a little trio. And I said, a trio? What do you mean? He goes, well, I have a drummer, and I understand that you play jazz, and I've heard that you can improvise and all that. I said, yeah, I can do that. And he says, well, and he was a sax player, and so we would meet in the band room, when we had time, and practice and play old standards and learn songs, and we performed at a few events, like school assemblies or variety shows, things like that. And we were called the Three Kings. And the person who called me was a year older than me, and his name was Bill Clinton. And he was a tenor sax player. He was a really good tenor sax player. He was in the high school band and the president of the student body. He was kind of president of everything, really. Super good guy, and we had a great time and learned a ton of songs. And it was the first time I had ever actually played in front of public, that kind of music in front of the public, and it was a really nice feeling when we played something and the audience would applaud. It was like, hey, this is kind of fun, So it was a good experience. It really was.
Yeah, I think you wound up maybe calling yourself Three Blind Mice because of your sunglasses, what I understand.
Well, on one of the events we did, we were wearing sunglasses, and the person who put it in the school annual referred to us as Three Blind Mice, but actually we were the Three Kings. But that fit that caption for that particular photo perfectly.
Right. If you didn't catch that, the audience, that was former President Bill Clinton. Have you maintained a relationship with the former president?
Sure. Yes.
Maybe y'all need to get together and have a little trio again, maybe sometime.
Anytime he wants, that'll be fine with me.
Okay, so I think you went to Hendrix College there in Conway. Is that in Conway, Arkansas?
Yes, it is. It is.
All right, and at that point, I guess you discovered that you could write songs at that point, and of course you'd been playing around. And tell us about your Hendrix College. I think you met your wife there as well.
Yes, I did. The first 2 or 3 weeks there were they were a very, very important 3-week period for me. One of the first things that happened was that I met Gail Wise, who later became Gail Goodrum, and we just celebrated our 57th wedding anniversary, by the way. So I was a piano major. I went there to learn to play properly because I knew I wanted to have a career somehow in music as a piano player or as a keyboard player. I was just trying to, just get better at it. And during that, really early on from being there, somebody in the music department approached me and said, had been asked to write this school musical. They had this club that did a musical every year, and he did it the year before. But he said, I don't have time to do it myself because I nearly flunked out last year. Took up so much time. Could you help me? And I said, well, what do you want me to do? He says, I want you to help me write it, music for it. And I said, well, I don't really write music. And he goes, yeah, but you're a jazz player. You know how to improvise. And I said, well, yeah. And he says, well, could you at least give it a try? Because if you don't help me do this, I'm just not going to do it. So I said, well, okay, I'll give it a day or so. Well, let's see what happens. So we got the script and we looked at it, and we put two pianos. We had two upright pianos. We put facing each other, and he was a piano player as well. And so I'm looking at the script, and then suddenly I get this idea. Well, hey, you see the premise of the scene, and suddenly I got this idea. Well, I have an idea. What if we call it blah blah blah? And then the next thing you know, a few weeks later, I've written 4 or 5 songs, and I suddenly said, "Hey, this is really fun." I enjoyed it. It was a similar process to jazz, just like he had said before, my friend, where you just basically are following a premise or an idea in real time, except you're putting a melody and lyrics to it, and rather than just playing licks or a solo or something. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain how it relates to jazz, but it is a similar creative process, and it's kind of how I've always approached songwriting in that respect, where I'm very inspired by premise rather than just some clever hook or something, a story idea, a situation, and then build a song around that. Have the song be the embodiment of that idea.
Yeah, just a great creative process that you discovered really by chance, I suppose, but it worked for you.
I'd never intended to be a songwriter. I mean, I loved songwriters, and I loved the songs that I would play in nightclubs, written by Hoagie Carmichael or Johnny Mercer or Jimmy Van Heusen or all the really great writers. I mean, I admired them, and Sammy Kahn, people like that. At that particular time, Jimmy Webb was showing up, and some of the newer people, James Taylor and all that. And so I really admired their work, but I hadn't really considered, gee, I think I'll try to write something, and it just sort of landed in my lap. So I wrote throughout the rest of the time I was in college, and I got a little better, but still the songs were not very good. And partly was, of course, Hendrix is a small college, right? It didn't have a big music department. And I didn't even consider getting a lyricist because at the time I thought a songwriter was supposed to write both. And so I was trying to figure out, the music came easy for me, but the lyric part was something I had to really struggle with to try to get my way of doing it, or try to get something that, I don't know, someday and by some miracle, somebody might record one of them, And so that was a struggle for me. My early lyrics were not very good. I'm saying that as an understatement. All right, let me tell you the story. One time I was doing a seminar after I'd had some hits and so forth. I was out in California doing a seminar, and started the seminar off by saying, how many of you have been writing songs for a year? And almost all the hands went up, okay? So I said, okay, how many of you have been writing for at least 5 years? And about half the hands went up. I said, okay, how many of you have been writing songs for 10 years? Hardly any hands went up. And I said, that's how long it took me to get somebody to be interested in recording one of the songs that I'd written. 10 years. And 10 years of working hard at it. I mean, I'd written a ton of songs in 10 years and still had not gotten to the point where I thought I had that aha moment, and figured out my way of doing it. And then it clicked. I don't know. I could explain more about that later in the interview.
Oh, yeah. Well, that sounds like a lot of stick-to-itiveness there, a lot of discipline to be able to go through that. And that's putting the work in, and that requires to be what you finally became. But you think you've already mentioned this about some of your greatest musical influences during that time. I know you mentioned a few of them. Maybe a couple of your people who were maybe your greatest influence on you as a young musician?
Oh, as a musician, oh gosh. Well, I loved Johnny Mandel's writing. Probably, I liked Henry Mancini. I liked people that wrote strong, sing in the shower sort of melodies that, once you heard it, you found yourself singing it the next day. And a lot of times, songwriters they don't put enough import on that, and I try to find something that's really kind of stands on its own, original. And people keep saying, "Oh, all the melodies have been written." No, no way, no way. That's not possible. And there's always another great original melody that a person can write if they be patient, work at it.
Yeah, you mentioned Henry Mancini, the great song Moon River, but I think Johnny Mercer wrote the lyrics to that. Boy, he is a great lyricist.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I think that in a way, I feel like I write a little bit like him because he would always surprise you in his lyrics. It was like just when you're floating along there, and then suddenly he'll come up, and of course he's another Southern guy,
Right.
like me. I don't know. We just have a way of saying things sometimes. It's unorthodox and might stick to your ribs when you hear it.
It seems like your career, Randy, has not been linear. It looks like, you were there, started off in Arkansas, of course, Little Rock, and of course you had some time in L.A. and even Connecticut, New York in the East, and then Nashville. So not a very linear career. Like you said, it took you a long time to hone your craft, but all over the place there, and just trying to figure out your music journey.
Well, actually, here's the deal. You mentioned all those cities. So after college, I was invited to go to the Army. Ha ha.
Yeah.
And I ended up luckily in the Army band, and I was still writing songs. I was still doing my thing when I had spare time and all that. One of the people I met in my unit when I was stationed in Germany was from LA. And he was encouraging me to come check LA out. He had heard music as a player, and he said, "Yeah, you ought to come check LA out." And he said, because I was trying to figure, if I go back, I thought if I move back to Little Rock, maybe I can have a career there and, play clubs and write songs and mail them to different people and whatever. I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing, really. I was just kind of wishful thinking. And my wife, Gail, was teaching school. She got a job at Little Rock teaching school. And so I thought, maybe I can make this work. But in order to get my music in front of serious recording artists, I needed to start finding people in these various music centers like Nashville, New York, or LA. So one of the early things I did was I drove actually to LA and stayed there for a couple of months with one of my Army buddies' parents had an extra bedroom and was playing songs for people in LA. And I realized that town, I wasn't really ready for that town. My music wasn't good enough. My songs weren't good enough. And so I went back to Little Rock and doubting whether Little Rock was going to work to be able to sit there and mail songs out, because I really wanted the songs someday to succeed, and it seemed like it wasn't going to work if I stayed there. So I was trying to figure out what the next step would be. And I actually called an old fishing buddy of mine from Hot Springs who was a guitar player. And during the time I was in college in the Army, he had somehow knocked around and ended up in Nashville, and it was a hit songwriter and publisher, and was also playing recording sessions as a musician and all that. And I was just asking him for advice because, he'd been all over the place. He knew people in Atlanta and Dallas and Memphis and all that. And so I was trying to find a place to at least go and network with people and try to get some opportunities for my songwriting. And he said, "Man, you should check Nashville out." And I said, "Well, that's a country town." And he goes, "Yeah." He said, and I said, "But I'm not a country musician, you know me, I'm a jazz guy, rock guy, whatever." He says, "We do everything here." And I said, "Really?" He says, "Yes, we record everything. You should come check it out. And I'll let you stick around for a while." And so I went, and his name was Bob Millsap. And stayed at his place for a couple of weeks. And he was a publisher, and he heard some of the songs I was writing, and he said, I don't really understand what you're doing with your songwriting yet, but all I know is I like it. I think there's something really good here, and I'll be glad to demo and publish some of them if you want. And I said, really? He said, yeah. And then he started hiring me to play on some recording sessions in Nashville. And he was right. They were recording every kind of music there. I mean, and not just country, but I mean, country's fine. I mean, I certainly learned how to play country sessions and all that. There were people like Dobie Gray and Dave Loggins and Dr. Hook and all these other sort of hybrid pop bands were there recording and come through. So I thought, well, it's only a 6-hour drive from Little Rock, and I'll start coming over here more. So I started going over there more and networking. Eventually, Gail and I decided, and my daughter Julie decided we would give it a go and move over there. Maybe Gail could continue her teaching there and all that. So we moved over there, and I started working, playing a few sessions, and also I got on a road gig with Roy Orbison. I started playing with him. And then shortly after that, I had this opportunity to join Jerry Reed's band. And I was a super fan of Jerry Reed. I thought he was just one of the most genius guitar players I'd ever heard. And that was really great because that introduced me to Chet Atkins, who was actively recording and still doing tons of work. And he started hiring me on sessions. And so I sort of started building a career there. At the same time, I was writing songs and getting them demoed by way of my friend Bob Millsap's company. He was the first publisher I ever had. And it was just a little demo. It was just a little company, and he had an office in Donaldson, Tennessee. It wasn't even downtown. But he was the guy that published my first big hits, Sad to Belong, and he was the publisher of You Needed Me.
Good to have a good fishing buddy there, I would imagine, Randy.
Well, we also fished there a little bit, but Hot Springs is a great fishing place. If you know that. It's 3 major lakes.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So,
well, you were learning your craft, and obviously your studio, very impressive, the studio work that you did. And you mentioned a few names there, but you played hundreds of sessions in the studio, and we can't go into all of that, but you enjoy doing the studio work?
What was nice about it was, I had a career that was paying the bills. I was playing studio work. I was also playing road gigs with Chet. Occasionally, Jerry would ask me to do something still, even though I left his band when I got pretty heavy into the studio stuff. So I had a full career. So whenever I would pitch a song around town, wasn't under any pressure. If they didn't want it, like I couldn't give You Needed Me away. Nobody wanted that song because it was like, we just mailed it to Anne Murray in the mail, and thank God she liked it. But so, I mean, I wasn't under any pressure to have to change my way of songwriting or do some crazy nonsense to the song to make it fit some artist that I didn't think it was right for. I was able to just sort of follow my creative nose and sort of with the watchful eye of my publisher at the time.
Yeah, a lot of creative freedom, I guess, for you at that time. I'd like to get a little bit more about your craft of songwriting. It's amazing, unbelievable, and it didn't happen overnight, as you said. But I think you've been quoted as saying songwriting is more conversation rather than poetry. Can you explain that? Maybe that, I believe you said that.
I think that's, let me try to clarify that a little bit. I think a lot of times writers will use the tools of poetry, adhere to them so much that it doesn't sound, that somehow you lose the emotional thread of the song. If you're worried so much about what's going to rhyme with that perfectly with that particular word, And so I think that was one of the things I discovered. My breakthroughs for me was I started doing what I can, if at anything, I would consider it a kind of a soft rhyme. Like in my song, Bluer Than Blue. The verse is like, let's see. After you go, I can catch up on my reading. After you go, I'll have a lot more time for sleeping. So sleeping and reading are not exact rhymes. They sort of rhyme. They rhyme enough. And the thing is that the strength of the poetic tools are that it gives the backbone to whatever you're doing, and that's great. But sometimes if you make it too Moon and June, you can miss the point of what you're trying to do, which is you're trying to convey a premise or a feeling. To me, the whole point of the song is to convey an emotion or a premise. And so, like, I could there's so many examples of that. I mean, sometimes I have used lines that are hard rhymes, and I mean, that's fine, but that's not my intent. My intent is you can lightly use them, is what I'm saying. And so I say in conversation also, I try to use conversational English because I think it's just how people talk to each other. And, we don't talk like Shakespeare to each other. And so I think that's how I like to, that's my particular way of doing it. I'm not disdaining somebody else's way of doing it. If they want to do it, hard line poetry, fine, great, go for it. And it's just I'm just saying that for me, it works better to sort of approach it conversationally. And I think about people like Johnny Mercer. You mentioned him earlier. I think that's one of the things he did was it's almost like he's just telling you a story a little.
Yeah, that's what I get from your songs is they really are stories in it. But I'm amazed that I think you sort of related it to method acting because you certainly probably didn't experience a lot of those things that you have in your songs.
No.
Yeah, and but that
no, that's exactly right. The thing is, yeah, you think of it. That was what was interesting about writing the very first writing I did. If you're writing a musical based on a script that has these situations that are happening, maybe none of which has ever happened to you. So what you have to do is you have to kind of get into the head of, you have to sort of dig into that character that is in the scene of this situation. And it may not be you, but you have to somehow take on that persona for a little bit. And one of the things I discovered, whenever you're doing something like that, you have to sort of do it in one sitting because people are so different. I've discovered nobody ever feels the same any 2 days of their life ever. Every day is different. Every day. And you can sit down to continue writing a song on day number 2, and you'll just never get back to where you were on day number 1. So the best thing to do is get your craft honed well enough where you can get at least 90% of the song done in one sitting, in my opinion. That's, even if make your rough sketch a pretty darn good sketch, in other words, so that when you go in the next day to tweak it, the emotional thread is still intact. Because sometimes, even in Nashville, I discovered, when I started writing there with co-writers, I had to learn how to co-write, by the way. My first major successes were all solo written, and I still consider myself basically a solo writer. But, I know how to co-write with people, and that's fine. But even if you take the Nashville method, I remembered was, you go in, you meet at 10:30, whatever, and you start the song. You write maybe a verse and a chorus. And quite often, that's the time that people say, well, let's go have lunch, and we'll come back and finish it. So you come back and you write the next verse or the next verse, or you write the bridge or whatever after lunch. And I found that quite often, yeah, that works, but it doesn't really fit the flow of emotion that we were feeling at 10:30. So even a little break like that can sometimes just in a very, very slight way change the course of the emotional thread. So that's just my personal.
Yeah, and as you said, it didn't come around. I mean, this took you 10 years to sort of figure those things out in your songwriting. I mean, it just didn't pop into your existence. So it does take a long time to hone that and figure that out. But you did it very well. So we've taken you from your childhood there in Hot Springs and went to college and your studio time and then your beginning of your songwriting. But I would say 1978 was a pretty good year for you because I think you had about 4 big top songs in 1978. And I'll just list them right quick here. It's Sad to Belong. And I think that was by John Ford Coley and England Dan, written by Randy Goodrum. It's Sad to Belong to Someone Else, sung by England Dan and John Ford Coley.
Met you on a springtime day. You were minding your life and I was minding mine too. Lady, when you looked my way, I had a strange sensation, and darling, that's when I knew that it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Yes, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Oh, I wake up in the night and I reach beside me, hoping you will be there. But instead I find someone who believed in me when I said I'd always care. Oh, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Yes, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. So I live my life in a dream world for the rest of my days. Just you and me walking hand in hand in a wishful memory. Oh, I guess that's all that it will ever be. I wish I had a time machine. I could make myself go back until the day I was born, and I would live my life again and rearrange it so that I'd be yours from now on. Oh, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Yes, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Oh, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Yes, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Oh, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Yes, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Yes, it's sad to belong to someone else.
Calendar year 1978. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I think Sad to Belong may have come out of late '77. I can't remember, but I think it was about a calendar year. Yeah, and that was just it was mind-boggling. I mean, it was mind-boggling. I never expected that, but it just all kind of came together. And what's interesting was, and I don't think I've ever realized this until recently, that quite often a songwriter will have a hit, right? And then other artists will clamor over and say, "You got any more of those?" And then next thing you know, they've got 2 or 3 more hits, and it's usually on the back of that first hit. It's on the back of the success of the first hit. But in the case of these 4 songs, none of those 4 songs, artists, producers, or anybody had any clue. They all considered that to be the first song, Randy Goodrum song, to be released, I guess, because I'd never had any other songs released before that. And so they were all like, in other words, Sad to Belong comes out, right? And then Before My Heart Finds Out, I guess, I can't remember which one came second, but it wasn't because of Sad to Belong. It just, And Bluer Than Blue had nothing to do with the success of any of those others. These were all things that simultaneously happened. And that's the most profound part of this whole thing. I had hoped that some of them would hit the charts somewhat, but they all did amazingly well. Yeah, that really launched my ship. As a matter of fact, I had to. That's when I had to switch from full-time musician to full-time songwriter, because professions in my business, songwriter, studio musician, recording artist, those are all separate careers that are like Texas Hold'em. You have to push all your chips in. You can't dabble in them if you're going to do them right. I mean, you've got to do it full time. So I had to switch from full-time on-call studio musician, because if you're a studio musician, I mean, you are basically like an emergency room doctor. I mean, if somebody calls you for a session and you're not booked on that particular time, you play it. You just have to do it. So I had to basically stop that career. And of course, I did play on things still later, things like all the stuff on the Steve Perry record and other songs, other things that I produced and all that. I would play on those, but that was just because I had done that and had to do it, So
Right. It sounds like you had, in 1978, maybe an analogy would be you had 4 children in that year, and all of them were different personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, all of those very stand out. I mean, they went almost to the top. If they didn't go, I know Anne Murray's song went right to number 1, and I think the rest of them very close to that, but all iconic songs.
They were all number 1 AC at Del Contemporary. All of them were. The Bluer Than Blue was top 10. And it was number 1 AC, but and I think it probably would have been a number 1 song, but the record label released the next single. I think by mistake they released the next single too soon, and radio stopped. So that ended the momentum of Bluer Than Blue on the charts. But still, Bluer Than Blue, I'm extremely proud of that record. I love that it was successful.
Written by Randy Goodrum, sung by Michael Johnson, Bluer Than Blue.
After you go, I can catch up on my reading. After you go, I have a lot more time for sleeping. And when you're gone, looks like things are gonna be a lot easier. Life will be a breeze, I really should be glad, but I'm bluer than blue, sadder than sad. You're the only light this empty room has ever had. Life without you is gonna be bluer than blue. After you go, I have a lot more room in my closet. After you go, I'll stay out all night long if I feel like it. And when you're gone, I can run through the house screaming, and no one will ever hear me. I really should be glad, but I'm bluer than blue, sadder than sad. You're the only light this empty room has ever had. Life without you is gonna be bluer than I don't have to miss no TV shows. I can start my whole life over, change the numbers on my telephone, but tonight's will sure be colder, and I'm bluer than blue, sadder than sad. You're the only light without you is gonna be bluer than blue. Bluer than blue. Bluer than blue.
I was going to ask you if anything stood out in any of those four songs. I know, looking back, You Needed Me is probably, it still touches people, and it's been over 50 years. Why do you think that's so? But I believe all of those songs touch people in a deep, meaningful way and have.
Well, there are a couple of things about I learned early on before I had any hits was there are things I had already sort of made some good habits and I had learned some things to do and not to do. And one of the things I learned not to do was to write topical songs. Like if you write songs that are about some current event, then 5 years from now, it's not going to really be relative anymore. I mean, the thing about and so a song like "You Needed Me" or "Bluer Than Blue," these are emotions that people still feel and will always feel. It's like I didn't invent those emotions. I'm just writing about them. These are ancient, going all the way back as far back as humanity, I think. People sometimes try to use some sort of twisted wit to talk themselves out of feeling bad, like in "Bluer Than Blue" or in "You Needed Me." There are people that are still going to be amazed that somebody could love them. Even though they think they're not lovable at all. And so there's those are old, ancient emotions that have been around a long time and are going to be around from now on, really. So I think that's part of the reason "You Needed Me" is still maybe affecting people, is because hopefully it always will.
Written by Randy Goodrum, sung by Anne Murray. You Needed Me.
I cried a tear, you wiped it dry. I was confused, you cleared my mind. I sold my soul, you bought it back for me and held me up and gave me dignity. Somehow you needed me. You gave me strength to stand alone again, to face the world out on my own again. You put me high upon a pedestal, so high almost see eternity. You needed me. You needed me. And I can't believe it's you. I can't believe it's true. I needed you, and you were there. And I'll never should I leave, I'd be a fool. 'Cause I finally found someone who really cares. You held my hand when it was cold, when I was lost. You took me home. Gave me hope when I was at the end and turned my lives back into truth again. You even called me friend. You gave me strength to stand out on my own again. You put me high upon a pedestal, so high that I could almost see eternity. You needed me. You needed me. You needed me. You needed me.
Well, that's explained about as good as you can say it. Those human emotions, and I felt just about every one of these emotions, and so was everybody else. And that is the clue to it, and the glue that holds it together is people relate to your songs, and that's a tribute to you, Mr. Randy. Very,
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
I'll tell you one of my favorite songs there that I guess it was a big hit also, "Broken Hearted Me." I think England Dan and John Ford Cody did it first, but I love the Anne Murray version. But I love that song, "Broken Hearted Me."
It's one of my simpler songs. It's one of those things where people say time will heal everything. Well, not necessarily.
Exactly.
It's like my friend Roger Murrah wrote this great line, which I kicked myself for not thinking of first, which was, "Some bridges just don't burn, or just won't burn." And so it's like that. It's like, I think time will heal. It applies to a lot of things. It really does. But, sometimes you got to take a premise like that and say, I don't know, maybe there's something that can happen to you or that you have to live with the fact you're never going to get over it, and you either make friends with it or just accept it.
Written by Randy Goodrum, sung by Anne Murray, "Broken Hearted Me."
Every now and then I cry. Every night you keep staying on my mind. All my friends say I'll survive. It just takes time. But I don't think time is gonna heal this broken heart. No, I don't see how it can if it's broken all apart. A million miracles could never stop the pain or put all the pieces together again. No, I don't think time is gonna heal this broken heart. No, I don't see how it can while we are still apart. And when you hear this song, I hope that you will see that time won't heal a broken-hearted me. Every day is just the same, playing games, time won't heal a broken hearted. Time won't heal a broken hearted me.
From Nashville in the late '70s because I wasn't able to really parlay my writing to the success we needed there. Even though Nashville's a wonderful place, but it was I needed. I started finding more opportunities in LA mainly and in New York and all that. And we thought, I was spending an awful lot of time in LA writing with Mike McDonald and Jay Graydon and all these other Steve Lukather, the guy with Toto, and I was making new relationships out there and writing songs that kind of fit my style of pop writing or whatever it was more than, and I was in getting more opportunities there. So we moved up to Connecticut to try to base out of there. And I was hoping I could get some things going in New York, but I was always on a plane to LA. And anyway, one day I was sitting in my kitchen in Connecticut, and I get this phone call, and this drummer friend of mine had recommended to Steve Perry that he call me, and he told Steve about some of my songs, and Steve said, "Oh yeah, I like those." And so, just out of the blue, he calls me on my phone, and he said, "Hi, this is Steve Perry, and I'm getting ready to do a solo record out here, I think, and I'd like to see if you're interested in writing with me for it." And he told me you've been referred to me by my friend and all that. And one of my daughters was in the room with me, and she said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Well, I think it's the lead guitar player with Aerosmith." And she said, "Joe Perry?" "No, it's this Steve Perry." She said, "Wait a minute, Dad." She went in and she into her room and came back with the Journey poster, and she pointed at the poster, and that's Steve Perry. And I said, "Oh." I said, "Steve."
Yeah, that's a great story. That's a great story.
So anyway, he said, "When can you be out here?" And I said, "How about tomorrow?" So I called up and got a ticket and flew out there. And 11 a.m. I showed up at this house that he'd rented in Studio City. Before I went to the meeting, though, I decided, Journey's pretty much established as a band. I know their style. I know exactly who he was at that point. And he's asking me to write with him. And I say, "Now, why in the world would he ask me to write? Because I don't write like that. I don't write Journey kind of songs." And so I thought, maybe he'd made a mistake. Maybe he thinks I'm Randy Bachman or something. I don't know. And so I went into my piano that night before I went out there. I went in and I just started vamping around, and I came up with this little vamp, which felt very Randy Goodrum-y, And I said, "Well, I'll take this and see if we can find a middle ground and write something together. And if not, I will have met the great Steve Perry and had a nice cup of coffee." And, I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't going to be, I wanted to be honest with him. I wanted to look, if you're going to write with me, I want to do what I do and you do what you do, and we'll find a middle ground. Because that was always my approach to co-writing anyway. And so we met, he's a great guy. And we went in, he had a little electric piano in the room, and he had a bass guitar. He played bass guitar. He played bass guitar and drums, but I didn't know later that he plays drums also. But so we sat down at the piano and I started noodling around with my little idea. And they say, we've got a start on what became Foolish Heart. So we're riding along, and we started at 11. About 1:00, he says, let's go grab some lunch and come back and we can write another one. I said, "We haven't finished this one yet." He said, "Oh, well, we got a verse and a chorus. We're okay." I said, "No. we need to stay with this. And again, we had a really good idea going. And if we just stayed with it, we'd end up with a great song, I felt, by the end of the day. So we came back from lunch and we just stayed on it and just stayed on it. So it was late into the evening. We had a little 4-track cassette recorder there, and we made a little demo of it. And it was the complete finished song, Foolish Heart.
Written by Randy Goodrum, Foolish Heart, sung by Rick Perry.
I need a love that grows. I don't want it unless I know that it's passing on. Someone somehow will be there, ready to share. I need a love that's strong. I'm so tired of being alone, but will my lonely heart play the part of the fool again? Before I begin, foolish heart, hear me calling, stop before you start falling. Foolish heart, heed my warning, you've been wrong before, don't be wrong anymore. Feeling, not feeling again. I'm playing a game I can't win. Love's knocking on the door, my heart wants more. Think I'll let her in before I begin. Foolish heart, hear me calling, stop before you start falling. Foolish heart, heed my warning, you've been wrong before, won't be wrong anymore. Foolish heart, you've been wrong before. Foolish heart, hear me calling, stop before you start falling. Foolish heart, heed my warning, you've been wrong before, don't be wrong anymore. Foolish heart, foolish heart, you've been wrong before. Foolish heart, foolish heart.
Oh, he called me at my hotel the next day and he said, are you coming back over? And I said, oh, okay. So I went back over. So for 4 days we worked. We wrote 4 songs. And I went back to Connecticut and he called me a couple of weeks later and says, so you coming back? Because I figured he was going to be riding with everybody in LA, right? And I said, sure, I'll come back. So I went back and we wrote more. And then I ended up helping him put the band together because I ended up playing keyboard on it. So I ended up sort of camping out and being a part of that project from the ground up. And the last thing I did was write lyrics for melodies that he had written with two of his former band members from a pickup band he had. It wasn't Journey and Melody had. I wrote the lyrics for Sherry. Steve and I did.
Written by Randy Goodrum and Steve Perry. Oh, Sherry. And sung by Steve Perry.
You should have been gone, knowing how I made you feel, and I should have been gone after all your words of steel. Oh, I must have been a dreamer, and I must have been someone else, and we should have been over.
Man, I tell you, that's sort of that's a great story because it doesn't seem like musically that you may fit with Steve Perry, and you didn't know either.
No, well, here's the thing. Steve, I think it was a solo record. He wasn't trying to do a Journey record, or a Journey sounding record. He wanted to go out and find a sort of a different bag or a different sound, and he did. We ended up with this great band of. It had a very unique sound. That particular album had a very unique sound. It didn't. The only thing that sounded Journey was Steve, just his voice. But
yeah, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to move away, I guess.
He did, and it was a blast.
And you mentioned Steve Lukather. I think that was sort of a strange meeting between you and Mr. Steve Lukather there from Toto. I think he came right over and knocked on your door. Is that correct?
Well, the first time we wrote together, person that put us together was a recording engineer in L.A. at the time. He lives in Nashville now, Bill Schnee. Bill Schnee was familiar with my writing. He had sort of like the reference Steve Perry got. He was friends with Steve, and Steve was with Toto. And somehow he thought that we would work well together. And so he suggested that he contact me. And I lived in a house on a street called Backman, which was on the and my backyard fence was the backyard fence where his mother lived. And so I think she had heard that I was there and had said, "Hey, there's this songwriter and you might want to meet. He lives right around the corner and all." And so I don't know, one thing led to another, and I think it's called Bill had suggested that, and yeah, he ended up knocking on the door and saying, "Hey, I'm Steve Lukather," and all that. But he's one of my best friends ever. He's just one of the greatest people in the world.
Yeah, and I believe the song.
We've written a ton of stuff together.
Yeah, the one I know, and everybody else probably, "I'll Be Over You." That was a big hit for him. And
yeah, it was a big hit for Toto, and I think it was the first outside writer song that Toto ever had. They were a contained band at the time, and actually I found this out, and I've been telling the story wrong so many years, but finally we got it straightened out from one of the members of Toto, Steve Porcaro, who's a friend of mine, and he and I know each other forever, and I was talking to him the other day about something and mentioned, I said, "You guys did I'll Be Over You. I was the first outside writer, right?" And he goes, "Oh." He says, "I remember when Steve played that night." And I said, "Were you in the..." Because here's what happened. I had a recording studio that I built behind my house in Studio City when we moved out there. And I had these small monitors. They were specially designed by Val Garay, who was the recording engineer. And the only other person that had a pair of them at the time was David Page, who was a member of Toto. And I wasn't sure how accurate they were. And so I mixed the demo that Steve Lukather and I did, I'll Be Over You. And I said, "Steve, would you do me a favor?" I said, "Next time you're over at David Page's house, doing whatever you're doing over there," because they used to rehearse over there, Toto did, "could you just go in the room when there's nobody there and just play this and see how it sounds and see if it sounds the same there as it does here?" Because he had different amplifiers and all that. So Steve called me a couple of weeks later and he says, "You're not going to believe this." I said, "What?" He said, "I was playing I'll Be Over You, and one of the members of Toto was in the room with me, said, 'We got to cut that.'" And he said, "Yeah, but I wrote it with Randy." And I said, "It's okay. We got to cut it. It's too good." And I had thought that it was either Jeff Porcaro or David Page. It was Steve Porcaro. Correct myself on that. I was just kind of blown away. I said, because I thought, it's a ballad and it's not, like Rosanna or Africa or any of that kind of stuff. And I said, "Are you sure you want to do this? It's a ballad." And he goes, and here I'm sounding like I'm talking him out of doing it, right? I didn't want to be the downfall of Toto or something, because I like those guys. They're great guys. And, but no, they said no. And I mean, they cut one of my favorite records of all time is their version of I'll Be Over You. I still just marvel at how good that thing sounds and how they played it and everything.
Some people live their dreams. Some people close their eyes. Some people's destiny passes by. There are no guarantees. There are no alibis. That's how our love must be. Don't ask why. It takes some time. God knows how long. I know that I can't forget you as soon as my heart stops breaking and tears are fading. As soon as forever is through, I'll be over you. Remember in times gone by, promises we once made. What are the reasons why
Let's talk about the group Toto for just a minute, Randy. The Picaro brothers, is that right? They were both brothers?
Well, there were three. Yeah. After Dave Hungate left, Mike Picaro was the bassist, and then Steve Picaro was a synthesist and, was highly involved in recording, especially the early albums. And there were, and then Jeff Picaro, the great drummer, Jeff Picaro, was one of the greatest drummers ever.
No doubt. What a great group. Toto, great band. Is there one artist that you never got to write with that you wish you would have, maybe?
Well, I did. I was hoping someday if I could just spend 10 minutes in a room with Peter Gabriel, but I actually, my publisher in Europe was a friend of his. My publisher, sub-publisher in London was a friend of Peter's, and I said, man, can you ask Peter if he'll co-write with me? And Peter very graciously just said, no, I don't really co-write. And I respect that. I mean, I just love his writing, and I always have. But that's okay. You don't ask, you don't get, right? So at least I ask it.
Exactly. Well, I tell you, I was driving around the other day, and You Needed Me came on my Sirius radio, I believe, XM. And I said, well, my gosh, I'm going to get a chance to talk maybe to this guy here. But that's the kind of thing, you can hear your songs anytime. You may be in, some store or whatever and listen to them. How does that make you feel when you hear one of your songs come on radio or wherever you might be?
I love it. I mean, I never stop loving it. I just, I'm honored. I'm glad that they're still out there somewhere.
Your latest piece is sort of on the jazz influenced. I think Pieces, is that your latest release?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, and I would suggest that everybody listening would look at that from anywhere you get your music. I especially like Goody Goody. I mean, I think that's a pretty good title for a song.
That's an old song. That's a Johnny Mercer song.
Oh, really?
30s. Yeah. And what I did on this record was, this is not all Randy Goodrum songs. I mean, these are some songs that I've always wanted to do recordings of. And it's interesting, I did a record on GRP back in the 80s and did a ballad version of Mr. Sandman on it. And, I just said, I always want to do an old standard of some kind on these records if I can, just toss one in there, some old, and do my version of it, And so I always thought it would be so cool to do a ballad version of Goody Goody because it's always this big up-tempo, nonsensical the way they do it in the past. And I thought, but there's a serious message here, And I mean, it's tongue in cheek, but it's there's some drama in the song that I think comes out in the ballad the way I did it. So
written by Matty Malnack with the lyrics by Johnny Mercer, Goody Goody, and sung by Randy Goodrum.
So you met someone who set you back on your heels. Goody, goody. So you met someone and now you know how it feels. Well, goody, goody. So you gave him your heart too, just as I gave So you lie awake just singing the blues all night. Well, goody, goody. So you think that love's a barrel of dynamite. Hooray and hallelujah.
Yeah, really love that album. I suggest everybody look up Pieces. Well, you have several albums. You can find them anywhere. And I do like your latest releases, though. One song off, I believe, Solitary Nights, about a goodbye. You're soft, so soft, you're goodbye. I believe that's the title of it. And
Yes.
I've been playing that about 15 times a day. That's just it's just one of those songs that grab me.
That's one of my wife's favorites. That actually it won a Grammy for instrumental for Chet Atkins and Mark Knopfler.
Written by Randy Goodrum, So Soft You're Goodbye, and sung by Randy Goodrum.
Love isn't always a victimless crime. Some make it through, but some don't survive. And human emotions are not always kind. So soft do you whisper, so soft your goodbye. One less companion to haunt you at night. Like a ghost I will flee you with a new morning light. And no more confusion have you left behind. So soft do you whisper, so soft your goodbye. One little reason why all of your feelings have changed. I thought forever was yours and mine till the end of time. Was it all a lie? And what will you leave me to help me survive? A picture, a flower, a tear from your eye. And what can I tell you that might change your mind? I wait for your answer, your tender reply. So soft do you whisper, so soft your goodbye.
So Soft You're Goodbye, instrumental by Chet Atkins and Mark Knopfler.
Chet was a big fan of my music when I was first starting out. And, I was a studio musician, but I started having people starting to notice. Recorded a few of my things. He was always he was always very encouraging. I mean, he was such a great mentor.
And I believe you were a studio musician playing the piano for him on at least one of his albums, or maybe more.
Oh, yeah, a lot of his albums I did. Yeah, I did. I played and wrote with him also. I wrote some instrumentals with him, some songs in general. It was interesting. He, when I used to I used to play the road with him, he played some really good gigs. He would play with symphonies and stuff and orchestras and stuff like that. And we were in Portland, Maine one time. And, the musicians in the band, occasionally he would feature each of them doing something. He had been having me play a little solo, like I used to play a Scott Joplin piece or something, just to and then when I started having things as hits. This particular day, we were in Portland, Maine, and he said, Randy's got some songs on the radio right now, folks. And he looks at me, he says, why don't you sing some of them? And of course, I'm sitting there at the piano. And I needed to have my lyrics in front of me to, I didn't have them memorized or anything like that. So he sort of like thrust me into that. So from then on, I had a segment of his show where I would do a little medley of things that were on the radio. And it also gave me some good experience of performing in front of crowds that big. And
No, that's amazing. If we'd had another whole show, because you had so many people you played with, produced, I've got maybe 251 collaborators and maybe 818 songs. That's probably not the entire list, but that's just what I came up with in the research. That's a heck of a lot of collaborators, and we didn't mention anywhere about. I mean, I think you worked with Chet Atkins' protege Tommy Emmanuel, and on and on.
Tommy,
yeah,
a lot, yeah.
He has came to our little town here several times, and got a chance to see an amazing guitar player. I don't know what you call his type, but it's really amazing.
Well, he's fingerstyle. He's a thumb picker, so to speak. He's pretty amazing. I mean, he's a genius for sure.
You think there's still some songs inside of you that haven't been written yet?
Oh yeah, I mean, I just always have a new angle on something, and I'm at it all the time.
Oh, that's wonderful. Never stop and never quit your creative juices. That's a testimony from me and everybody else who may be listening who has got a little time on this journey we're on around the sun. So finally, Randy, how would you like your musical legacy maybe to be described or be remembered?
I really don't have an answer for that. I don't know. I think I'm not going to try to second guess history. History will be what it is. And it's funny, when I was a student in college studying all the great composers and musicians and so forth, when I was in, a music major, I discovered that a lot of those people were not really, they were barely known at all, sometimes even until after they were dead. And so I just hope that my music matters in the future. I mean, I certainly don't have a sell-by date on my songs like a piece of steak. If they still sound fresh 100 years from now, great.
I think we mentioned that, when we talked about the songs that you have written, touching emotions that will be around forever. So my personal opinion is I don't think your songs will ever go out of style, and they'll be around for many, many years as long as people have emotional feelings and can have those feelings of whatever the human emotion range is, and it's a big range. But whatever they feeling, your songs touch them in a very special way.
That's one of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, is there anything else that you would like to say before we close it out here? I really thank you again for your time and your patience, and this has been a wonderful experience for me. I really have enjoyed it. And anything you'd like to say in the end here?
No, I just think it's been a pleasure for me too, and I hope that I hope you have a successful podcast career yourself now that you've got a new hat on, and enjoy yourself. It's been a real pleasure getting to meet you and to visit with you.
What a remarkable conversation with one of music's true masters. Our sincere thanks to Grammy Award-winning songwriter Randy Goodrum for sharing the stories behind the songs, the memories, and the incredible journey that has touched millions of music lovers around the world. And thank you for joining us for this special edition of The Mike Stone Show. Until next time, I'm Mark, reminding you to keep the music playing, keep the memories alive, and we'll see you on the next conversation.